Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Monday. Hope you had an awesome weekend. Hope you're ready for a big week of this show. Hope you're ready for today's show. I hope and pray that I am ready for today's show. We're going to start off in the shallow end of the pool, and we're going to eventually descend and swim out further and further and further into treacherous, dangerous waters that could get me canceled, could upset a lot of people, but it's a conversation that I think is warranted and must be had given the events of late last week and over the weekend. We're going to touch on some very ticklish topics, or a very ticklish topic. I thought about it over the weekend. I thought about it this morning. I think it's appropriate. People are going to be upset. I'm not trying to troll anybody. I'm trying to put all the facts and all the conversations on the table, things that are being discussed in private. On this show, we try to have those discussions out in front of everybody. I don't know what I think completely, but I do think we need to have the conversation we're going to have today. Royce White is going to help me unpack this topic. So will Shemeka Michelle. And then we'll pivot and talk some NBA playoffs and some sports topics with the great Steve Kim, the Korean Cosell. So we'll end the show on a lighter note. We're going to start off by walking into the shallow end of the ocean, swim out to the deep end of the ocean. Shemeka Michelle and Royce are going to meet me out in the deep end of the ocean. And then I'm going to swim like hell to make it back to shore to have a conversation about sports and something light with Steve Kim. So put your bathing suits on, get your life preserver on. We're going to have a discussion that everybody should be having. Be patient with me as I try to. I'm not going to give you the deep end of the pool right off the top. I don't want to warn you because I don't want to scare people off. And I want to give you some context so you can understand why we're discussing the very deep end of the pool. So start pounding that like button. Start giving me the 5-star reviews over at Apple. And I'm doing that. I was afraid to write this down, just being completely honest with you. I'm completely fearless, but some things, you write them out, and I normally write a mono, I publish a column about the topic I'm talking, but I was like, I don't want to commit this to writing because these are things that I think, and I'm moving towards belief, but there's a difference between what you think and what you believe. Your thoughts help you develop your beliefs. These are things that I think. So we'll start here. We'll start with Elon Musk and the conversation we had last week where there's a pivotal moment and a pivotal thing transpiring over social media as it related to Matt Walsh's What is a Woman documentary. And I raised some concerns about Elon Musk. At first, Twitter wasn't going to allow What is a Woman, and then they pivoted because Elon jumped in and said it was the right thing to do, and he eventually supported the airing of What is a Woman on the Twitter platform, and to great success. I think 170 million people may have viewed What is a Woman. And then Elon doubled down even harder, I thought, and even more significantly on Saturday. What is a Woman, of course, is the documentary about this whole transgender issue. On Saturday, Riley Gaines, who was a guest on our program on Friday, the University of Kentucky swimmer, who has been outspoken about biological males and transgenders participating in women's sports. Heard her on the show on Friday, very smart, very courageous young woman. She tweeted out a story and some congratulations. There's a 14-year-old girl, she was 14 at the time in 2022, named Blake Allen, 14-year-old girl, athlete at some high school in Vermont. Riley Gaines tweeted out, "So happy for volleyball player and friend Blake Allen for feeling uneasy undressing next to a boy in her locker room. She was suspended from school and her dad lost his job. They told her she would only be let back in if she publicly apologized for her feelings of discomfort." So this transgender issue and this whole LGBTQ thing that I keep saying is at the heart of a lot of the chaos, the polarization, the division, this whole movement. I've said for years, Black Lives Matter is really the LGBTQ movement. It's all the alphabet mafia, and that whole gay, lesbian, transgender, queers, bisexuals, silent P, pedophilia, all of that is at the heart of a spiritual war going on in America. There is a ton of conversation about this. And this issue seems so critical that kids were literally, this is a 14-year-old girl, a volleyball player, clearly a freshman in high school, possibly even an eighth grader, but I think a freshman in high school. She expresses discomfort about dressing in a locker room with a boy, with bat and balls. And gets suspended from school, and her dad, who is a junior high soccer coach in the same school system, gets fired from his job because he comes out and says, "Hey man, my daughter's uncomfortable with this, we're uncomfortable with this, we're not for this." Riley Gaines clearly has been talking to these people behind the scenes, and she acknowledges her support of them and the fact that they have won this lawsuit, and the school's now gonna have to pay them $125,000, lawyers' fees, all this other stuff. The dad has been reinstated. Travis Allen has been reinstated to his job. The daughter is no longer suspended and doesn't have to apologize for being uncomfortable. A 14-year-old girl is uncomfortable undressing in a locker room with a boy. Imagine that. She sounds real normal. She gets suspended. Elon Musk, and this man tweets up a storm, he ain't scared. He co-signs incredibly unjust what had happened to this family. Elon Musk, I don't know where Elon Musk, in the grand scheme of things, 10 years from now, where he's gonna be. I hear the complaints about transhumanism. I hear the complaints about this woman he has installed as CEO of Twitter. But time and time again, Elon Musk keeps making the right decisions, and pretty bold and courageous decisions, time and time again. I don't think Elon Musk is some kind of Christian warrior. He just seems to be a man controlled by common sense and fairness. And so I have to give him credit, because this transgender issue is at the heart of everything. The division, the polarization, the political polarization, and what's really at play and at stake here in America. It all comes down to the transgender issue. And that's why I gotta go, hats off to Matt Walsh and the Daily Wire for jumping on this topic in a big way, putting out the documentary, What is a Woman? And Matt Walsh just crossed over 2 million followers on Twitter. As I said, his documentary, 171 million, 175 million views on Twitter. He has put out tweets celebrating the fact that his documentary is now one of the most important documentaries, perhaps in American history. I can't argue with any of that. It is a perfectly timed documentary and speaks to this time that we're living in America. Historians will one day say that this era that we're living in right now is trans America. Trans America. That's the era that we're living in. And hats off to Elon Musk, to Riley Gaines, to Matt Walsh for jumping into this debate and argument and coming down on the right side of facts, truth, and in my view, a biblical point of view. This thing is so crazy. One of the other tweets I saw this weekend, a woman named Nina Turner. You've probably seen her on CNN. I think she's been on MSNBC. She used to be a state senator in Ohio. She's on television a lot. She's allegedly an educated person. She's now out of politics, but she tweeted out, if someone says they're a woman, not a tough concept. This was in some back and forth. She was having, I think, complaining about something Ron DeSantis had done in Florida that impacted the transgender crowd. This is an educated woman, been on TV, been in politics, a Bernie Sanders supporter, a public intellectual. And she's married and allegedly has a kid. And she said, if someone says they're a woman, not a tough concept. And so it just baffles me that we're in this place in American society where there's this huge debate about what is a woman, what is a man, are there more than two genders? This issue is critically important for some reason. This fundamental issue that was settled in the book of Genesis thousands of years ago is now at the forefront of everything that's going on in America and across the globe. There are people like Nina Turner that think that gender is a state of mind. If someone says there's something, that's what they are. How did we get here? How did this happen? Why is this issue so important? That's what we're going to delve into today with Royce and Shemeka. And now we've been playing around in the shallow end of the pool, but we're going to go off a little deeper. And I want to start here before I get there. I want to play you a Netflix video, or not, it's not a Netflix video. I follow a Twitter feed called Illuminati Bot. Tweets out a lot of interesting information or conspiracy theories. They put one together. It's a 3-minute video I want to play for you guys about Netflix. And when I watched this video, I thought of Royce White, because Royce is always complaining about, hey man, we don't even want to address the real issues. We just want to, as Royce says, jerk off, be entertained, watch basketball, football, play video games. We don't even want to deal with reality. And this video about Netflix hammers Royce's point. Let's play the video.
Known as the father of psychoanalysis, Sigmund Freud claimed his father molested all of his siblings. Freud was a cocaine addict, as well as a pedophile advocate, who taught that children sexually lusted after their parents, and that children who reported sexual abuse by adults had either imagined or fantasized the experience. He believed that women were the problem with society, and all their problems stemmed from not having a penis. Freud's grandson, Sir Clement Freud, has been accused of molesting multiple young girls and was suspected in the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. Sigmund Freud's sister, Anna Freud, whom Freud claimed was regularly molested and abused by their perverted father, gave birth to Freud's nephew, Edward Bernays, the father of propaganda. Bernays took his family's work in psychology and used it to help governments and corporations manipulate the minds of the public. Hired by the American Tobacco Company, Bernays manipulated women into buying more cigarettes by convincing them that smoking was a form of feminist liberation. During this propaganda campaign, he dubbed cigarettes torches of freedom. Thanks to Bernays and his family's twisted legacy, social engineering became big business. Modern psychology was used to exploit mankind's mental weaknesses, nurture the public's lower desires, and turn people into mindless consumers. Is it any surprise, then, that the great-nephew of Edward Bernays is none other than Mark Bernays Randolph, the co-founder and original CEO of Netflix? Does anyone really think this is a coincidence? Netflix has not only replaced network television as the premier home of pop culture, it is also continuing the degenerate, depraved social engineering of the Bernays-Freud legacy. In 13 Reasons Why, Netflix was accused of romanticizing suicide during a recent increase of teenage suicides. In The Devil Next Door, they were accused of rewriting history to deceive viewers into believing that Poland was responsible for establishing Nazi death camps. In The First Temptation of Christ, Jesus Christ is depicted as a homosexual. And a Texas grand jury indicted Netflix for depicting child sex in the movie Cuties. Netflix and chill, the new preferred method for brainwashing the masses. Brought to you by one of the most depraved, degenerate families of the modern era. Turn it off and wake up.
That's fascinating to me. Now that's fascinating to me. Sigmund Freud, Freudian slip. I mean, he's a respected, I had no idea that this guy was a pedophile, child molester, cokehead, nutty person. I knew a little bit about him. I knew a little bit about Edward Bernays and his starting of propaganda and all that other stuff, and his role in helping transition Americans into being a consumer-obsessed society. Knew that. Knew nothing about his great-grandnephew or whatever, co-founding and being the CEO of Netflix, but it makes sense. And then when you start thinking about this family and how depraved it is and its lineage, and then I just started thinking about Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, and I believe his daughter Ashley Biden. And I just started thinking about Joe Biden's daughter complaining in her diary about her dad taking inappropriate showers with her as a child. And I think about Hunter Biden and all the coke and prostitutes and allegations of deals with foreign countries and allegations of involvement with his sister-in-law, with young kids. And then I thought about all these elites attached to Jeffrey Epstein and Epstein Island. And I just started thinking, who's in control? Who are these powerful elites that are celebrated throughout history and rise to power? Who are they? And is there some sort of connection, a theme running through all of them? This sexual depravity, this infatuation with children, this promotion of the LGBTQIA plus silent P movement. And then I started thinking about what I brought up last week when this topic came up, that Bill Clinton, who has his sexual depravity issues and allegations from women, but beyond that, in 1999, as I talked about, and this is all easily discoverable stuff, he's the one that turned Pride Month into this national thing. He's the one that declared gays and lesbians, we're going to commemorate the month of June as Pride Month. We've turned sexual choices, sexual preferences, sexual, whatever you want to call it, into an entire month of celebration and worship. Why? We've put sex front and center. The entire country, all of our institutions spend a month celebrating people's sexual preferences. And then 12 years after Bill Clinton in 2011, as I talked about last week, Barack Obama adds the B and the T and the Q and all the other letters to Pride Month. This is a fact. I'm not making it up. Barack Obama, Bill Clinton said, hey, Pride Month is about lesbians and gays. Barack Obama in 2011 says, no, it's also about transgender, queers, and bisexual people. Huh. Barack Obama did that. This is mind-blowing to me. And this is where I'm saying, we're going off into the deepest end of the pool, and I'm going to irritate people, but I don't care at this point. It has to be discussed. Let's play the Joan Rivers clip. This has to be discussed. Play the clip.
Mr. Rivers, how are you? You made a ton of news officiating the wedding in New York yesterday. Is this like a new cottage career move for you?
I am so excited.
Okay.
And I should do very well because I don't charge.
And do you think that the United States will see the first gay president or the first woman president?
We already have it with Obama, so let's just calm down.
Got it.
You know Michelle is a trans.
I'm sorry, she's a what?
A transgender. We all know.
Oh my gosh.
Oh gosh. It's okay.
It has to be discussed. I don't have an opinion on it. I don't know what's true. But you can't look at American history. You can't look at what has transpired just in the last 25, 30 years or so. You can't tie it all together going back to Sigmund Freud and Edward Bernays and Netflix and Joe Biden and you just can't do it without discussing everything that's on the table. And I get that Barack Obama is a Christ-like figure to many people on the left, and particularly for black people. But this is what when I talk about the problems with racial idolatry, when you make race the determining factor on what you will and won't support, what you will and won't overlook, you put blinders on and you can't see what's obvious and what must be discussed. Is Joan Rivers the authority? No, of course not. She's a comedian. Who knows what she was doing? She died a month or so after making those statements. Who knows? But why would she say it? Was that her history of saying those type things about presidents and first ladies? What was the motive? What was the agenda? Why did the guy even ask the question? I don't know, but it's out there. It was discussed at the time. It all just went away, and everybody pretends like it didn't happen. And then again, this weekend, because I'm just looking with my eyes wide open, some guy named Stu Peters from Minneapolis, Minnesota. He's got a Twitter feed. Before this morning, I had never followed him, but his stuff shows up on my Twitter feed from time to time. And he tweeted out this collage of pictures. Let's put that on screen. Let's put the collage of pictures, please. Barack Obama doesn't have children, and he definitely didn't have them with Michelle, in quotes. Martin Nesbitt and Anita Blanchard are Sasha and Malaya Obama's real parents. Nesbitt is also the chairman of the Obama Foundation. Keep that picture on screen. The guy in the far left is Martin Nesbitt. He looks a lot like, almost identical, to Barack and Michelle's oldest daughter. Anita Blanchard, his wife, Martin Nesbitt's wife, she's a doctor. She looks almost identical to their youngest daughter. These are just facts. What they look like. I'm not saying that they're the parents. But what an amazing coincidence that the founder of the chairman of the Obama Foundation looks like Barack Obama's father. Looks identical. What an incredible coincidence. And then the doctor, who the media says delivered the babies. Incredible. She looks like the youngest daughter. I mean, my God, give me the lottery ticket numbers, please, somebody. How does this happen? How? That man, Martin Nesbitt, met Michelle Obama, I think when he was a high school basketball player, because Michelle's brother, I think Craig Robinson, was a high school basketball coach. So she goes way back with Martin Nesbitt. And the Obamas have known Martin Nesbitt and Anita Blanchard. They're married. You know, this is one modern marriage. She ain't got his last name. But they're married. And they go on vacations together. And there's other pictures of them on vacation with the Obamas and the two kids. And in every picture, Martin Nesbitt looks like Malaya, and Anita looks like the other daughter. Now, you can't look at those pictures and say, oh, yeah, it looks just like Barack and Michelle. But you can damn sure say it looks like Martin and Anita. And so when I started thinking about this, I started thinking about the whole birther movement controversy. And the birther thing used to baffle me, like, why is this a big deal? Just show your birth certificate, move on. Why is this some big controversy? And even if they did question, and it started with Hillary Clinton, but it got pinned on Donald Trump. And I'm just like, why is this the most racist thing in the world? That, oh my God, it's racist. He thinks Obama was born in Kenya. Well, because this is what I was thinking in 2008, in 2012, whenever these controversies were going on. The whole time I was thinking, like, if someone accused me of being from Kenya, would I be offended? Would I think it's racist? What? Kenya? What's the big deal? I mean, I get that it makes you disqualified from being the president, but I just don't see it as racist. We took on the name African American. Someone's accusing your heritage of being from Africa. Isn't Kenya, again, I'm no geography buff, but isn't Kenya part of Africa? Let me look it up. I don't want to say the wrong thing. And because I really am this stupid that I got to look it up. I told you all, I graduated Ball State with Kenya's from Africa, the Republic of Kenya. part of East Africa. How is that racist? If I call myself an African American and people are saying, man, I think your daddy's from Kenya, or I think you were born in Kenya. Why is that racist? It's not. This whole birther thing, to me, feels like a smokescreen. It's drawing a line in the sand. There's a line of questions you are not allowed to ask about Barack and Michelle Obama. And so let's draw a line in the sand, and anybody that questions where his daddy's from and if Barack was born in Kenya, we're drawing a line in the sand. That's racist, and that's out of bounds. And they draw that line in the sand so you never ask the real questions. A major celebrity, Joan Rivers, in an off-the-cuff comment, Barack's gay and Michelle's transgender. And no one ever asked a question about it because everybody knows that would be racist because the birther thing has drawn that line in the sand. Any uncomfortable questions, that's racist. And so if ever across the internet, put the picture back up of the family portrait of the 6 of them, across the country or across the internet, pictures like this are everywhere. If you do, anybody punch anything into Google, do your own research, this stuff is everywhere and has been everywhere for several years. I've been looking at it for several years, never saying a word, blowing most of it off. Oh, this can't be true. But then you start thinking about it, you start thinking about the history of these politicians, and you go, oh my God, what is going on here? What is, and so I'm sorry, this trans issue, this LGBTQ issue, all of this seems to be front and center and the most important thing going on in America. I look at the reaction to Matt Walsh in that documentary. I look at the war that's being waged against Elon Musk, and he knows how dangerous it is to come down with a position on any of this LGBTQ, transgender stuff. It will get you canceled if you don't take the right position. And I'm looking at all of these celebrities. All of these celebrities take the position on the transgender thing. And again, I've lived 56 years. And I can go back 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. These questions and comments and positions, they weren't even on the table. Nobody was thinking there was 32 genders. And then boom, overnight it pops up. And like, oh no, if someone says they're a woman, they're a woman. We got Supreme Court justices that can't answer the question, what is a woman? How? How did we get here? Why is it this important? Clearly it's important. Clearly they're protecting something. Clearly there's an agenda afoot. And to me, and this has nothing, I don't have a 100% position on Obama and his kids, Michelle and the pictures of her with a wiener and all. I don't have a position on all that. But I do know there's a spiritual war going on. We're being disconnected from God. And at the heart of that is this whole transgender and sexuality and gay, lesbian, and all of that movement. It's all at the heart of it. It's how we're being The Nina Turner calls herself a Christian. She calls herself a Christian, and she's tweeting out that, if someone says they're a woman, they're a woman. Where's that in the Bible? I've gone on longer than I planned. We got plenty of room for Royce. Royce, I'm getting to you here in a minute, 30, 40. I don't care how long it goes. We may have to boot somebody. Maybe we won't ever get to Steve Kim. Don't hold me that. We'll have a marathon show. Tell Steve Kim, back up about 30 minutes. Tell Shemeka back up about 30 minutes. I want to give Royce plenty of room. And sorry, Royce, I'm sorry for making you hold this long. Royce, let me take care of the love of my life, preborn, before I get to you so I can clear the deck, and then I'm going to give you the floor, and we're going to let Royce cook. But I want to tell you guys about what we do here at Fearless. We support preborn. We support a mindset and a belief system that life begins at conception. That mindset informs our worldview on everything else. Life outside the womb, life inside the womb. It's a part of our mindset as fearless soldiers. We back up that mindset by supporting preborn. Preborn provides ultrasounds to expectant mothers who are considering abortion. They provide the ultrasound. Ultrasound shows that woman the heartbeat of the baby, shows her an image of that baby inside the womb, and that woman, most times, 70, 80% of the time, makes a different choice to keep the baby, and then preborn steps in and provides her the help, support, and materials and things she needs to get through the first 2 years of that baby's life outside the womb. Preborn is awesome. Preborn is something I personally support on a monthly basis, and then I make random contributions, and as a fearless soldier, I'm asking you to do the same. $28 pays for one ultrasound, $140 pays for 5 ultrasounds. Whether you give $5, $28, $140, $14,000, what, it all goes directly to ultrasounds and supporting that expectant mother. I brought Dan Steiner, who started this, onto the show, met him, talked to him personally. The money isn't misallocated. It's not paid to a bunch of middle management executives. This goes directly to saving babies' lives. Be a good fearless soldier. 2 ways to give. Pound 250, say the keyword baby, or do it the Jason Whitlock way. Preborn.com/Jason. Preborn.com/Jason. We're saving babies' lives. You can help. Be a good fearless soldier. And when you do, email me. fearlessblazeshow@gmail.com. Let me know. I'll send you a response, a thank you. Love it when you guys send me emails. Keep them coming. Royce, I apologize for making you wait, but I just wanted to provide a little context before you came in and provided some history and a deeper context to a conversation I think a lot of people are afraid to have. But this whole weird sexual dysphoria, dynamic, perversion that seems to be at the heart of politics could be at the heart of why I've never been completely comfortable with the Obamas, and they may be the tip of the spear of this whole deal, but have I, I'm just gonna shut up. Have I said anything inappropriate, or jump in, get in where you fit in?
Have you said anything inappropriate? I mean, I would assume our enemies out there would call you a white supremacist, as they've done me many times. Any criticism of Barack Obama by default makes us all white supremacists. You know, Barack Obama is the greatest example of the cultural Marxist agenda, cultural Marxist identity politics being, being ushered in on the back of black identity. And it's been, this is long withstanding that they use the black identity or black history or black people in America to bring this movement forward. Really post-civil rights, right? The Civil Rights Act was really the inception of this whole scam or agenda. But Barack Obama is like the sine qua non of it. And in reality, Barack Obama's presidency, as much as it is promoted commercially as him being the first black president, really, he's known for 2 things. One, he ran up an outrageous debt okay? He came in at the tail end of a housing market crash, a financial crisis, and he turned the taps of liquidity on and just let the Federal Reserve run amok. And also he heralded the entire LGBTQ era that we're still living in today, as well as being regarded by the Jewish community as the first Jewish president, because of he has so much Jewish support from the Jewish political lobby. I mean, so none of his presidency, none of his policy had much to do with helping black people at all. It's all been cultural Marxist identity politics.
Are the persistent questions about Michelle and gender identity and Barack's sexual preference, are those fair questions?
Absolutely. I mean, anybody who, first of all, I don't know if Michelle's packing a sack or not. I can't be sure. I've never seen her sack. I'd have to get up close to really know. Never been anywhere near the Obamas. It's certainly conspicuous how out of his way he went to become this figurehead of this LGBTQ movement and the policies that it's led to. I thought what Joan Rivers said was strange, to say the least. I mean, she was dead serious. Now, she was older. Maybe she was in bad health. Maybe her cognitive ability was leaving her. She seemed pretty coherent to me, much more coherent than Joe Biden seems to be right now. And he can be in charge of an entire nuclear arsenal. But we can't listen to Joan Rivers make an off-the-cuff comment about some insider baseball with the D.C. political elite. So, hey, I think it's completely warranted. But aside from the specific case with the Obamas, it's hard for people to grasp some of these weird, perverted, and sexual politics because they think all of this is very new. And the DC elites and the political elites and the financial elites, the Epsteins of the world, these sexual politics are not new. These sort of sexual deprivations are not new. Even when it comes to childbearing, this over-scientification, scientific approach to childbearing is not new for your hyper-rich and elite. It's just not a new thing. Surrogacy and having, and even furthermore, from a political standpoint, from a political marketing standpoint, I can't tell you how many meetings I sat in when I ran for Congress, and there was all of this, market research or data research. I wouldn't put it past the people who helped Obama get elected to look at some market research, right? Some type of data that suggests that they should have 2 children and that would help them in the polls or whatever the case may be, and find 2 people around him who seem to have, lifelong friendship with him to provide that. It's not far-fetched for me.
I want to be fair, not that you said anything unfair, but I want to be fair and show. People magazine ran a series of pictures from Michelle Obama's childhood. And so, and this was a way I think of trying to answer these questions. And so I want to show, if we can show that series of pictures that I asked for, just in the interest of fairness. That's Michelle and her little brother as kids. Let's run through a few more of these, just so. That's her at the prom with, I'm not sure who that the man does not look like an 18-year-old, but I don't know who that is, or dad or something. But that's her at the prom, allegedly. Show a few more. That I used to, until I saw this in People magazine, I've seen this picture many times. I used to think this was a Photoshop. I didn't think it was a real picture because, the short hair on Michelle, and it just doesn't look that picture doesn't look very feminine. And I thought this was something that someone had cooked up to halfway embarrass her. Here's a better picture of her and Barack, I think early in their relationship. Looks pretty feminine there. And so it's hard for me to wrap my mind around that she would be transgender, but the questions are so persistent. And then the agenda and the importance that has been placed on this whole transgender issue, I just, how it got to this level of importance, it's such a small, tiny, or it was such a small, tiny percentage of the American population. What justifies, let's say, being generous, 1% of the population requiring 30% of the conversation? It's never made sense to me.
If you can pull the picture back up, the real question here isn't about Michelle's sexuality or gender. I think the real question is, why does Barack Obama have his legs crossed and smirking like that? That's real suspect, in my opinion, just on face value. I'm more questioning Barack Obama and how weak his ankles look in that picture. But nevertheless, look, the better question, like, again, around Barack Obama, all of these characters, these DC elites, these lifelong DC people, these lifelong global governance people, global institutions. Remember, Barack Obama's supposed biological father was the Kenyan physicist or geneticist or whatever he was. I'm not sure. He was a scientist who Barack Obama only met a couple of times in his entire life, which is conspicuous to begin with, okay? And he grew up in where? Hawaii, right? That's what the huge controversy was. He grew up in Hawaii, and in his diary or in his memoirs or in some of his writings, it's long been discussed, talked about, disclosed that he regarded a man named Frank Marshall Davis as his real father, and who stepped in sort of as a father figure who looks just like Barack Obama. I don't know if you can pull up the picture of Frank Marshall Davis, but he looks just like Barack Obama himself. Yeah, he was a communist leader. Frank Marshall Davis wrote that he, loved that Russia was able to throw off its monarchy through the communist movement, and that was supposedly Barack Obama's real father. There's rumors about that, or there's allegations about that. I can't, who knows with these people? Who knows with these people? I mean, these people are spooky. What I think is important is that most of your average Americans can't wrap their minds around the fact that people would go out of their way to tell these kind of lies and deceive the American public. And I'll take it a step further. Historically, many people do not accept the depth of deception and wickedness that presides in our government. And I told you earlier today, just look at the United Nations.
Hold for 1 second. I want you to give this history lesson, but I want to provide a little bit more context, and I want to clear something up, because you helped clear up in my mind. Because isn't the whole birther thing, it's about Barack being born in Indonesia, maybe, and I think that's the allegation. I may have said Kenya because I was thinking about his dad or whatever, but that's one part of it. And then two, before you give this, because this history is fascinating, what Royce does an awesome job is providing that historical context to all conversations, telling us things, informing us things we did not know. But the one reason that I want to buttress your point about, if you study the Kennedy family, and how Joe Kennedy crafted a narrative about himself and about his family, and how his sons, while being patriotic, they were also trying to build their resume. That's what they joined the military and went off to war. And there's all kinds of allegations that John Kennedy's heroic acts were exaggerated or fabricated, I think, during World War II. And so you're right in terms of there is a lot of managing of narrative around these political candidates. And I watched a PBS documentary on John Kennedy that was trying to be favorable to John Kennedy, but in telling the facts about how ill he was and how addicted to medication he was, and how I think he met with the Russian leader, I can't think of the guy's name, but he was coked up or high on all these drugs he had to take to maintain his health. And so I am open to the fact that narratives can be crafted, histories can be made up, and people can be installed as presidents. But anyway, you and I were talking this morning, and
Yeah.
in terms of the spiritual war we got going on, you connected it to the United Nations. Please unpack that.
Okay. Again, what I was saying is that people have a tough time grasping just how deceptive and wicked the institutions that preside over them really are. They have a tough time. They don't want to accept it. The people who know about it, they mock it, they scoff at it, they call us conspiracy theories. The people who are Christians, they know we're in a spiritual warfare. The people in the middle, they kind of go, that's a little out there for me. But you don't have to go far to find these things. And that's what really frustrates me the most in trying to, and I'm sure it frustrates people like Alex Jones. It's frustrated him for 20 years because the evidence is not really hidden. I mean, it's just a matter of us, like the guy said about Netflix and Sigmund Freud, who, in my opinion, there are two prevailing anti-Jews of the modern era. One is Karl Marx, and the other would be Sigmund Freud. And these people are as anti-God as it gets. And this whole anti-God movement goes right back to the Roman Empire when they stuck the spear into Christ. I mean, they've been trying to undo Christ since then. And people fail to understand that because they won't look. So the history that I tried to, enlighten you on earlier is I'm sitting here over the weekend and I'm just skimming through the United Nations. Because make no mistake about it, another pandemic is coming. When the World Health Organization, which is run by the United Nations, tells you another pandemic is coming, you should know another pandemic is coming. The question is it natural, jumping from a bat in Wuhan, or did it leak out of a lab? I'll let the audience decide. Seems pretty clear now, gain of function. Point is, I'm skimming through the United Nations website, and I come across a list of NGOs. And one of the NGOs is the Lucis Trust. Okay, the Lucis Trust. And just because my familiarity with the language and the Latin language, I see Lucis, I think Lucifer. That's just natural for me. I don't know how other people think. They got their website listed right on this is the United Nations official website, okay? They got this group listed as an NGO or as a social economic affairs NGO. So I go to their website, and right on their website, it tells you exactly who these people are. I mean, and when I say these people, I don't mean Barack Obama, Michelle Obama. I'm talking about the entire globalist establishment and agenda. It tells you exactly who they are. Allison Foster Bailey. Allison Foster Bailey founded the Lucis Trust. It used to be the Lucis Association, okay, the Lucis Association. Before then, in 1922, Allison Foster Bailey founded Lucifer Publishing Company. And they changed it to Lucis Trust because of how Christians felt about the story of Lucifer. And their whole story is Lucifer, the story on Lucifer is completely wrong. It has nothing to do with Satan. It has nothing to do with Satan at all. Lucifer's the light bearer. He's the knowledge bringer. He's the good guy. It's actually God who's the bad guy. Lucifer's trying to warn us that God is an evil tyrant. Okay, that's the whole Luciferian movement. And my whole point in bringing this up to you earlier is we think of the United Nations as this peacekeeping organization that was founded in 1950 after World War II. That's the common belief about it. But this group, the Lucis Trust, still stands today on the official website of the United Nations as a Luciferian thought group, as a Luciferian think tank, as Luciferian intellectuals. Bring up the picture right there. It's listed right there. It says who founded them, and the whole nine tells their story. Now, Alice and Foster Bailey are an example of these early 1900s, late 1800s Atlanticist Americans. Again, Upper East Coast Corridor, Atlanticist, globalist sort of intellectuals. Involved in publishing, involved in media, involved in newspapers, so on and so forth. They named the Lucifer Publishing Company after a book, the first book that was written, Initiation into Humanism and Solar, Initiation into Human and Solar, in 1922, This is 25 years before the United Nations even takes its first piss in the Middle East. 1922, initiation into human and solar. And who is the thought leader of this sort of journal that inspired this book? Helena Blavatsky. Who was Helena Blavatsky? Who was HPB? Helena Blavatsky was a Russian mystic. She was an occultist. She was one of the founders of the Theosophical Society. This is all the history that people either are too busy to go look up, or in some ways maybe it's being hidden from you in the algorithms or whatever the case. This isn't hard to find. So you go look up Helena Blavatsky and you find out very quickly that she's one of the hitters of an entire era of Germanic anti-Catholic Church thought leadership, okay? Philosophy, movement, political movement. And one, I thought it was funny to mention to you because right there, if you go look up her Wikipedia, which I think I sent the image of, it says that she's a Russian mystic. But where does it say she was born? In Dnipro, Ukraine, okay? So if you go back just 150 years, the Ukraine didn't exist. It was a part of the Russian Empire. It was a part of Russia. Now, because we're in a war that disputes the Ukraine sovereignty and the Russian sovereignty and the whole history and identity, now she was from Ukraine. But it still calls her a Russian mystic. That's not the point. The point is who she influenced. Who did Blavatsky influence? What's the influence? Pull it right up on Wikipedia if you can. I want people to know how easy it is to find the stuff. Bring up Helena Blavatsky, because they're not hiding it. On my Wikipedia, they'll hide all the things the truth. Helena Blavatsky, look up who she influenced. It's such a wide spectrum, I think it's honestly hilarious. On one end, it says she influenced Mahatma Gandhi, okay? Yes, the forebearer of civil rights in modern history, Mahatma Gandhi. So on one end, she influenced Gandhi with her philosophy, and on the other end, she influenced who? Guido von List. Guido von List was an Austrian occultist who was a thought leader. This guy right here, great, Guido von List. Okay, he is the thought leader. He was the progenitor of the eugenics movement. He was the progenitor of the Aryan Nazi. This was in the late 1800s and early 1900s, before Hitler ever rose to power. This guy was moving around in Germany pushing occultist, Germanic, tribe, nature, religionist, anti-Catholic movement. And again, I bring this all up because people have a tough time dealing with any patriots out there that say this is a satanic agenda. This is a Luciferian agenda. They just don't know the history. When the Roman Empire encountered the Germanics, they made them adopt Christianity. They made them adopt Catholicism. And these Germanics did it at the tip of a spear, but they put their polytheistic pantheon in their basement, down in their little private room, and they went and prayed to them when they could, okay? And because the Roman Catholic Church, in their view, was oppressive, they added the Antichrist to their pantheon, which isn't hard. Because if you're a polytheist, you can add as many deities as you want. Just like if you're an LGBTQist, you can add as many identities as you want. There's no constraints. This entire LGBTQ movement is the final product of a Germanic, Nazi, occultist thought experiment that is explicitly anti-Christ. It's eugenics-based. It influenced, it informed a lot of the racist ideology. It informed Aryanism. This is why you see the runes, the Nordic mythology, Norse mythology. This is why Hitler and those guys were obsessed with the Vikings and this idea of true white. And guess what? My other point to tell you, and I told you earlier, and I'll end right here. The other point is that during this time of World War II, where these European cultures clashed, there were Jews on both sides of that movement. There were Jews who were faithful, and there were Jews who rejected God. And there were Jews who resented their Jewish brothers and sisters who still believed in God. And they helped a lot of these things get going. Blavatsky, she was a Jew. She was a Russian Jew. Okay, she helped inform the thought, the theosophical, as they would call it, not philosophical, theosophical thought that led to Guido von List saying, "Hey, the Jews have a recessive gene. We're going to kill them all." Okay, I mean, it gets deeper. It's, the Rockefellers. The Rockefellers are sponsoring Ernst Rudin. Who is Ernst Rudin? People don't even know Ernst Rudin. The head of the eugenics, Adolf Hitler's appointed eugenics head guy. He's found guilty at Nuremberg. He's sentenced, and he's given a $500 fine. Where'd they stick him? At Columbia. They stuck him right in American University. Why? Because the Rockefeller Foundation had been funding his eugenics research since before the war was on. They went to Roosevelt, and this is why I get pissed off when people will say we're anti-Semitic for talking. No, we don't want the Jews to be used in this BS historical narrative that tries to point us in one direction when the truth is much deeper and much darker. They went to Roosevelt. They went to Roosevelt during the Holocaust and said and begged him, pleaded with him, please bomb the rail lines. There are Jews being sent to death camps. Bomb the rail lines. He didn't do it. Maybe he was anti-Semitic. The point I'm making all in all is this. We were the Nazis. We loved the Nazis. We still are the Nazis. This is why this LGBTQ Luciferian identity movement looks so similar to Nazi Germany.
And so the last dot I want to connect with you is if you look at the Biden administration, Joe Biden doing some kind of interview video with Dylan Mulvaney, Joe Biden hiring that Sam Britton to, I forget what job he gave him, Joe Biden, Rachel Levine, the first female admiral, Trump transgender man or whatever, to Dmitry Deskalaskis or whatever. I was looking up all these things that they're promoting and trying to put the transgenders and the gays in all of these prominent positions in government. And this is like Joe Biden's legacy. And this man purports to be a Catholic. And so when I know people are upset with me for even having a discussion about Obama and Michelle and just a lot of the rumors about them. But when you look at politics and the sexual perversion amongst it, you can throw Kennedy in there. The guy was a sex addict. But it just seems to get worse and worse and worse. And it has led to this time we're at right here in America where the trans issue and naming a black woman a Supreme Court justice who gets in front of Congress and says she can't define what a woman is.
Yeah.
What the hell is going on? You have to ask these questions. At some point, how many dots have to be connected for you before you start going, there's a pattern here, there's a deeper meaning, and all of these people seem to be in on it. There's just, you can't say, because he's black, half black, and certainly, again, dude grew up in Hawaii, his daddy's from Kenya, his mama, was all over the country, all over the globe, banging everybody. He's raised by his, they acting like this is Booker T. Washington's son that ran for president. It's not. This ain't, what do they call him, foundational black? He ain't one of them.
Foundational black Americans, foundational black Americans.
Yeah, and again, I don't go for any of that, but again, he ain't one of them. This is a dude with a, Colin Kaepernick type mysterious background. Like, Colin Kaepernick don't know who his daddy is. And it don't sound like Barack knows who his daddy is. And that creates some identity issues. And that's the type of person they seem to be putting in power. And I look at Biden and the weirdness and the sexual depravity of his family, and
Again,
go ahead.
Again, this, people have this strange affection for communism, mostly because the way that the British Empire and the entire Western colonial society was formed, right? They think, oh, capitalism, colonialism, imperialism, Christianity, all fruit from the same tree. So naturally, many people who oppose this sort of Western European imperialism and colonialism, they naturally just drift towards the default of Marxism. Marxism became the anti-crown, anti-imperialist philosophy, and communists as a product of it. But communism was never really a political philosophy. It was always a satanic philosophy. They just wrapped themselves in political circumstance or propaganda to appeal to the people. This is the merger of communism and Satanism. Of course Satan is going to align himself with the communists. Of course the communists are going to draw on the LGBTQ to weaken America, because America is the bastion of freedom. It's the bastion of free will. It says there are individual rights that are granted to you by a creator. It affirms Christ, it affirms God in its fundamentals. And it's not by accident that the LGBTQ and transhumanism ushers in an era of global governance where they say, hey, you're not a citizen. You're not a citizen of a nation. There are no borders. There are no nations. There's just one world, and we should rule it because we know better than you do. Satanic.
Thank you, Royce. We're going to bring Shemeka Michelle in next, get her take on this. You can email me and us, fearlessblazeshow@gmail.com. Shemeka Michelle, next.
It's my obligation, no hate, discrimination, raising up your hands for freedom.
All right, welcome back. Shemeka Michelle joining us from North Carolina. Shemeka, man, I feel like I've rolled myself and the whole show out into the deepest waters where we're likely going to be drowned by the Barack Obama, Michelle Obama hive. Have I made a mistake here by even addressing these nasty rumors? I agree they're nasty, but they won't go away. And am I making a mistake by even having this discussion?
Listen, Jason, I do think that you're going to come under fire, or we're going to come under fire, because a lot of people have an issue when you say anything negative about the Obamas. But I definitely think it is a topic of discussion that people are having, even if they are having it outside of the public. I just received a video, I think maybe last week, of this young Black woman who was saying that she was raised in Chicago, and that it's a topic of discussion in Chicago whether or not Michelle is actually a man. And she was saying, don't get upset with me. I'm trying to figure out, just like y'all are trying to figure out, but it's a topic of discussion here. I spoke to another guy from Chicago. He grew up in Chicago or lived in Chicago for a very long time. He said it's not discussed whether or not she is a man or a woman, but there is discussion that she just popped on the scene. It's almost like she was born in college. There's no real talk of her, for someone who was supposedly born and raised in Chicago or been there for so long. There's no talk about her as a young person. That every topic that comes up about Michelle is college forward. So there are a lot of questions on whether or not this is actually a female. And Royce brought it up earlier about Obama's weak ankles, but you do have people who have come out saying that Barack is gay. And Larry Sinclair came out saying that he performed fellatio on Obama in 1999 in the limo, and then again in his hotel room. He claims that Donald Young, who was the choir director for Jeremiah Wright's church, the pastor that came under scrutiny initially when Obama was running for president. And that man was actually murdered after coming out saying that he had a relationship with Obama. So there are definitely questions about Barack's sexuality, which would lead to questions on whether or not Michelle is actually a male or a female. So I definitely think it's a topic of discussion, and yeah, we'll come under fire, but what we do, I'm told, is press the gas when most people think we're gonna back up.
I thought I read that in one of Obama's books, he acknowledged having an infatuation with a college professor at some point. He didn't say anything happened, but he just said he had an infatuation. It was some kind of where he walked up to the edge of the line and said, I was kind of interested. It was one of them deals where he said, I woulda if I coulda. And that to me seemed like an acknowledgement of, maybe I'm not gay, but I had some gay thoughts, which is really neither here nor there. But I just prefer to deal with it transparently and honestly. If that's who you are, come out and say it. And so I'm not. I mean, I know this is a tough issue for the racial idolaters, but and the whole everything, any criticism of Barack was always framed as, hey, this is racist. But damn it, I'm just in 2023, if you cannot look back and say, hold on, man, in 2011, this guy made a big declaration that, hey, Pride Month is now about queers and transgenders and bisexuals, and open this whole thing up, and you call yourself a Christian, and that doesn't trump your racial idolatry of like, anything Barack does because he's got dark skin, I'm going to support. The man endorsed Pride Month and opened it up to this whole transgender thing. And if you can't see that was a mistake and contributed to where we are right now, and is not the work, not the actions of somebody who is a sincere Christian or has a biblical worldview, and you can't object to that and have it like, well, hold on, what's going on? Why are you doing that? And maybe he did it for just sheer political reasons. Maybe, but again, the transgender crowd just isn't that big. And in 2011, maybe he saw it coming that this was going to be the biggest issue of the day, and there's a whole big political block. But I'm just sorry, the questions are fair. Everybody with a biblical view should have some buyer's remorse on Barack Obama.
Oh, definitely. When you said last week that he was responsible for adding the bisexual and trans to Pride Month, it popped up in my head again, the questions on where he stood with his sexuality and, where Michelle stood on her gender or whatever. And also the fact that Michelle had the interview with Dwayne Wade's son, I think it was last year maybe, where he told her, he just wanted to be his genuine self like she is. And all of those things.
Do we have that clip? Hold for a second. I thought we were grabbing that clip. Do we have that clip? Oh, we don't? Okay. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, those led to genuine questions in my mind. And we have to actually be honest that Barack Obama pushed a lot of this LGBTQ through when he was president. Although Joe Biden is on record saying that he believed marriage was between a man and a woman, he changed as vice president with Barack Obama, and Barack pushed a lot of things through. For me, that is when I started questioning my vote for him, because I'm thinking, gosh, he's passing a lot of gay stuff going through, and now we're having to question whether or not men should be going in the women's restroom, and it was a lot. And I think he provided a smoke screen for Black people, because we were just focused on the fact that here was a Black man in the White House with a Black wife and Black kids, that we missed a lot of the things that he was doing that put us on this slippery slope that we are on now. And a lot of it was because we didn't look at it hard enough, because it was Barack Obama. So I think he was strategically placed in office. I don't necessarily think, we voted him in. He came from out of nowhere as this, great senator, and we hadn't really heard about him. There was no great buildup. I think he was strategically placed for that reason, to provide a smokescreen for people to be just in awe of having the first Black president, and not see that he was really put there to push the LGBTQ plus the P is silent agenda.
So you're a mother of 3. Let's put the picture back up of the Barack Obama family photo that includes 6 people. The doctor and his wife, or the Obama Foundation chairman, his wife, sister. Yeah, you're a mother of 3. When you look at that picture, I'm just sorry. I know what my grandmother would say in her 80s, 70s, in her 60s. Something here doesn't add up. I mean, that they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. That one there looks like it's worth 1,000,000 words.
Yeah, for sure, those girls look like the Nesbits. Is that their name? They definitely look like them. And you have to also remember, too, Jason, Michelle came out and talked about this so-called miscarriage that she had before having these 2 kids, and said that she had fertility issues, and that these kids were produced through IVF. And so for me, I just don't understand why there are no pictures of her pregnant. All of the ones that people try to produce, you can tell, are recent pictures of her where they just added a stomach. Even I, having a 27-year-old, have pictures of myself pregnant. This was long before long before the whole maternity photo shoots that people love to do now. But there should still be some pictures of her being pregnant. And I would think if this was such a struggle for you, you would want to document the fact that you had a miscarriage and then had to go through fertility treatments. And then here you are pregnant, here's the miracle. God did it. I don't understand why there's no pictures of her pregnant. And people say, oh, she doesn't owe us anything. But if she herself has said, we don't talk about this as women, miscarriages and infertility, and we need to do better about sharing these stories so that other women can feel like they aren't, incompetent. Show us some pictures. Show us the miracle. Show us that, God did it. God is good all the time, and all the time God is good. Let's see some of that. So I do think it's strange, as a mother myself, that there are absolutely no pictures of her pregnant with these miracle babies.
Oh, okay. I can go, if the excuse there, she didn't take pictures, she was pregnant, wasn't comfortable with the pictures, doesn't want to share it. Put the picture back up. This is what I just can't get over. I mean, the coincidence of the chairman of the Obama Foundation just happens to look like your oldest daughter, and his wife, who is a doctor, who is credited with delivering your babies, just happens to look like your youngest daughter. That's a hell of a coincidence, Shemeka.
For sure. And listen, if that means we have tinfoil hats on, then I need to just go and get the Reynolds out and wrap it around my head, because I definitely see the similarities, and I agree. They look a lot like this couple. And again, I don't have any proof the other way that she actually carried these kids. So I have to lean with the rest of the tinfoil hat wearing people that these kids belong to the Nesbits.
I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to, because I'm not. I know you can read my mind and know what I think, but all I just want somebody, if I had some kids that looked like my best friend, I would explain it. I'm just sorry. If I had kids that looked like my best friend and somebody that worked for me for 20 years, I would explain, like, I know this is crazy, y'all. I know what you're thinking, but trust me, here's the DNA proof, here's blah, blah, blah. At the very least, you would have to think, did this man bang my wife? I'm just sorry. And I'm just keeping it real. You've been, you know, with grandmamas and mamas, and when women get in the corner, like, man, she looked like so-and-so's brother, or she looks just like, you remember her high school boyfriend, so and blah, that baby looked just like. That's commonplace in families, whether black or white. That conversation goes on constantly, and you can't tell me the Obamas aren't blind. And their family and friends, and America's not blind. Somebody has to explain this. It's worthy of an explanation, or you should have got rid of these people. And so, literally, like, distance yourself from them. You got rid of Reverend Wright, you distance yourself from him. Don't make this man the head of the Obama Foundation if he looks just like your oldest daughter. And just the whole story, I mean, the woman delivers the baby. This woman delivers the baby and looks just like the youngest baby. Somebody, please, God, help me understand this. Help me.
Yeah, we made the Kardashians give us a reason. You know, when everybody kept saying that Khloe belonged to OJ, and Chris had to come out and actually say, you know, hey, this is what happened, or this didn't happen. So if the Kardashians can come out with some type of explanation, I don't see why we can't hold the Obamas to the same standards. But, you know, just like Khloe favored Obama until she had all of those plastic surgeries, these kids look like that couple for sure.
I think I asked you this last week, but I'm going to ask again. What do you think of Elon Musk, his decision to support Matt Walsh and What is a Woman, and then doubling down on Saturday, backing up Riley Gaines on the transgender sports issue? We question Elon Musk all the time on this show, but he keeps coming up with the right answers, in my opinion.
He definitely keeps coming up with the right answers. And I will say, when it comes to Elon, I do think he is better than what we had before. It's just that if he ever, backtracks or steps to the side, I won't be surprised, because I just don't understand what would snatch him back or keep him on this right path, unless, he's had some type of turnaround in his beliefs that aren't public, that we don't know about yet, which could always happen. But he definitely keeps going in the right direction. So maybe eventually he'll come out and we'll get to see a public baptism. Who knows? But I appreciate the fact that He's definitely better than Jack, and he definitely keeps choosing the right side of this war. You know, this is a culture war, and we keep saying it's good versus evil. And so far, Elon does seem to be on the side of good. And so I appreciate that. And I want to see how, messy things get. I don't know if you saw that Cornel West has just come out saying he's running for president. And, this has just been a big down and dirty fight this whole 2024. So I can't wait to see what happens, who's censored, whose accounts are taken down. If we can make it through this presidential race fairly without people being censored, he may just get another check mark from me, Elon Musk, because, that's going to be a big thing that I'll be watching.
Look, I was not always where I'm at today. And literally, I'm just going to be, I don't know if I wouldn't be as passionate about my positions that I am today if they left kids alone. And it's the trying to influence and seduce kids and to wrap them into this whole sexuality thing. That's the thing that has compelled me and made me start questioning everything. I mean, it has literally made me start questioning everything I've been, like, yesterday I woke up, they say today is Sunday. Is it really? Are we sure? Let me go do some, I mean, literally, I'm questioning everything, and that's what this issue as it relates to kids. And so when I look at Elon Musk, again, why did he tweet support of Riley Gaines? 14-year-old girl being mistreated, having to shower undressed with boys. It's the involvement of kids that are pushing men, and I think perhaps pushing Elon to start questioning everything. And eventually, again, I've said on this show many times that it wasn't until 2013 when I started going through that problems with ESPN and saw all the people lining up against me, that the light bulb went off and made me say, man, there's a spiritual component, a good versus evil component to this that I was unaware of, thought I was just going through life and it was normal. And so I feel like, and this is the optimistic side of me, like Elon Musk is being red-pilled in real time. And he's not there yet, but he's inching closer and closer and closer to where he's going to have to say, you know what? These people are against God. And if they're this hard against him, that must mean God is real. And if I'm going to be on the side of truth, I got to be on the side of God. I just think we're watching it play out in real time. Look, you go back and read what I was writing and what I was doing in the 1990s and early 2000s. And a lot of the stuff was funny and got me a lot of attention, helped me build a big following. But I'm ashamed of a lot of it. It's like I saw today, and we may get into this tomorrow, but Robbie Starbuck tweeted out a picture or a video, Lib's a TikTok video, I think, of some gay pride parade. They're going through the streets, and the dudes are naked, their butts out, and they're beating them with a whip. And this is all out in the middle of the street in the parade, and it was just all, and so when I looked at that, I get why Robbie Starbuck is upset. But the way I looked at it was like, I did that. I did that in terms of all the debauchery that I celebrated in music, all the heterosexual sex that I celebrated in movies. We slammed promiscuous heterosexual sex down everyone's throat. And so I shouldn't be surprised that gay people are like, okay, we're gonna slam our sexuality, our promiscuous, we're gonna slam that down y'all's throat. And so I feel responsible, like I was part of the heterosexual debauchery that was laced in the music I listened to, in the movies I watched, into the strip clubs I went to, the trips to Vegas I went to, all of that, and flaunted it, would write about it, talk about it, crack jokes about it on radio and TV, just shoving it, my sexuality, my irresponsible, shoved it down everyone's throat. I shouldn't be shocked that the other side is like, okay, we're gonna shove it down y'all's throat now. I
Right.
sit there and take responsibility, and that's why I'm running as fast as I can the other direction.
You're absolutely right, Jason. And I was a part of that Lil' Kim era. When I think of my great grandmother, we were talking last week on how I went to my family reunion and just looking at the pictures from the way they used to dress. And you could tell that they carried themselves with class and dignity. But here, Lil' Kim, I was singing the loudest in the club. I'm drinking babies. Then I craps for the Mercedes. Zach Shady, that was my era. And so I'm pretty sure my grandmother and her siblings thought, oh my God, what is going on with this generation? That something that we used to keep behind closed doors, what we did, whether it was heterosexual or homosexual, they kept that behind closed doors. And then we took it and we brought it out to the forefront. We wanted to talk about it in all of the music. When you listen to music, that's all we promoted was sex, 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 sex. And now we have here the generation coming after us that, yes, if you're out of the closet, they're completely out of the closet and they're shoving it in our faces. And we have just gone down this, downward slide, this spiral down that it's very apparent as to how we got here. I think they said it takes 15 years to demoralize a generation. Well, look how long we've been on this road going downhill. It's no surprise that we are where we are. And I do believe, though, that the kids will make people actually choose a side. It's funny that if a man says something to me now at work, I can easily quickly say, oh, that's sexual harassment. But you take that same conversation and put it in the classroom and we think that it's okay, it's fine. When I see what these teachers are saying to these kids, when I think back to when I was coming up through school, if a man had ever asked me, hey, are you straight or are you gay? One of my teachers, my uncles would have descended on that school so fast, thinking that this man was doing something inappropriate. It's crazy to me that they have these same conversations now with second and third graders having to decide who they would like to go to bed with, because at the end of the day, that's what you have to figure out. If you're 8 years old and you feel like, oh, I'm attracted to the same sex, it's the sexual decision that you have to make. And so the way that they're pushing this on kids, I think Elon Musk and us and so many other people with common sense are saying, wait a minute, you are going a bit too far. And I do think the way they're coming after kids is going to open a lot of eyes. I remember seeing the picture of Trump and the word said, they're not after me, they're after you. I'm just in the way. Now I'm seeing pictures of little kids that say, they're not after you, they're after me, and I need you to be in the way. And so us as adults, we need to be in the way. We have to take this stand and keep being fearless because it has gone way too far. And although my kids are older, one day I'll have grandkids. And so I will stand in the way of this sexual perversion that they think is okay and that's proper for children. It's not, it's wrong, it's evil. And I'm going to stay in the fight. And so I'm grateful that Elon Musk and Robbie Starbuck and the Fearless team and our fearless soldiers are standing in the way for these kids, because I used to want to be a police, a nurse, a doctor. My mind changed. And so when they are going out and they're mutilating these 11 and 12-year-olds, they have no idea what they're doing, because these kids, their mind may change. I knew a little boy in the 8th grade who wanted to be Spider-Man. I never took him and said, hey, climb out this 5-6 story window and let's see how it goes. You realize that children can't make important decisions like that. And the fact that we are allowing them to, and you have adults pushing them to make such permanent decisions, we all got to be in the way, because what we're going to see in 10, 15 years, I think is going to be a travesty, and people are going to wish they had been on the right side of the fight.
Thank you, Shemeka. Great job as always. I want to end this segment talking about this. I want to be crystal clear here, because I think a lot of people think, hey, it's very important that we rebuke the other side. And what I'm trying to say is it's important that we rebuke ourselves and acknowledge our role in this. And so it's not enough just to say, hey, those are the bad guys. There are things we did that compelled them to do what they're doing. And I know that that's very difficult for many of you to hear and accept. You've designated yourself as the great, perfect person, and I had nothing to do with this, and probably you're wrong. I know you're wrong. I know I was wrong. And so cleaning up my own behavior, and it's a difficult process that I struggle with constantly. If people had access to my Instagram, what I look at on Instagram occasionally, it's not all cleaned up. I'm trying, and I'm making progress, but it's like the desire to see women dressed very, very provocatively. I got to put that all away. And I've been putting it away and just like reprogramming my mind to see a woman that's dressed modestly as attractive and as desirable. That's part of the process we have to go through, because we've been so conditioned, from Sports Illustrated swimsuit issues to every magazine cover to every Academy Awards, red carpet, or Met Gala. We've been sitting around, can't wait to see the women show up half naked. Oh, that's great. I used to love going to big fights in Vegas. Took my father, brother, friends, everybody, and you won't believe it, man. Fight night, casino at the MGM. Oh, women are gonna be dressed so incredible. Everybody's gonna be half naked, and you just sitting there in a suit and blah, 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 blah. And I mean, I used to celebrate and just revel in that. And I've had to put it all away and clean up my mind and clean up my expectations, because again, that's how we got here. We made sex front and center for everything. I think, but people send me the pictures of me and I think it was the Miller Lite girls. We were at a party together. Me and remember the Miller Lite girls? Very attractive, one blonde, one brunette, and I picture me hugged up with them and all this other stuff. And I'd go to the Playboy parties and all that stuff, and I'm just like, that's how we got here. There's certain behaviors that don't need to be front and center and out in public. They're meant for private consumption. And that's whether it's heterosexual or homosexual. And so, it's a little bit more boring, but it's the right thing to do, and it's the only way to get kids out of the crosshairs. We're not going to stop this. Kids will be in the crosshairs. This sexual crosshairs if we don't stop our own misbehavior and just embrace some modesty and some privacy. I think back to John Thompson saying everybody should have 3 lives. I'm not saying this is perfect, but I'm just saying I get the philosophy. A public life, a private life, and a personal life. So, personal life, I can't remember, but it was something. But it's just, some things need to be placed in the closet. Not just homosexual behavior, a lot of our behavior needs to be placed in the closet. It needs to be you and your wife, you and your girlfriend, really you and your wife, but you get my point. Anyway, all right. I think we've made it back to shore. If not, we will attempt to get back to shore with Steve Kim. I'm in the deep end of the pool. Many of you Obama lovers, you racial idolaters probably hate me, but it's an important conversation and we're gonna have it here on Fearless. We're gonna talk some sports with Steve Kim. Yeah.
What up, y'all? It's Tranon Sharpe, aka Uncle or Auntie They. Back with a new episode of Club They. You know how we do it. The pronouns are Bron sexual. We love everything LeBron James. Some of y'all might remember me as a Hall of Fame football player, a 3-time Super Bowl champion, John Elway's favorite tight end. But the truth is, I was living a lie for 40 years. I was trapped in the closet. Ever since I was a little kid, I secretly identified as a basketball player. I always preferred those big, luscious basketballs over pig skin. It's like my granny always said, Tranon, you is non-binary. You can shoot with your left and your right hand. Nothing will bring me more joy and fulfillment than an evening handling LeBron's basketball. Bron sexuals, I am the throat goat.
모두 다 빨리 박수 쳐 기다리지 말고 서둘러 Reason that I'm back is to feed you raps I see that you are 배불러 So fly
All right, welcome back. Time for some Korean Cosell. Steve Kim joining the program to talk a little NBA action, talk a little Jemele Hill action. Steve, the Nuggets even the NBA Finals series at 111-108 last night. Terrific game. And look, I'm programmed just like everybody else. I'm watching the game, but I'm thinking about LeBron James. That's how they distorted my view of the NBA. And so my immediate thought when that game was over is like, LeBron James left Eric Spoelstra and the Miami Heat. If he had stayed in Miami, he might have won the Jordan debate. He might be considered the GOAT. LeBron has never committed to a great coach like every other superstar. Magic had Pat Riley. Isaiah Thomas had Chuck Daly. Jordan had Phil Jackson. Larry Bird had several different coaches. Bill Russell had Red Auerbach. But if LeBron had stuck with Spoelstra, he wins the GOAT debate. Agree or disagree?
I still disagree. I don't think his game is as complete, but I think you make a point that is very salient. If you are going to be part of consistent championships, you have to buy into the culture. And you're absolutely right. Every player that you named, they generally had one guy that set the tone, and they were the head lieutenant. I mean, I always go back to when Phil Jackson first took over for Doug Collins. You have to remember, Doug Collins was actually a successful coach. They made some deep runs into the playoffs. They kept running into Detroit. And they got this guy, this kind of quirky guy that had some success in the CBA, who was brought in by, I believe, Crumbs Krause when they were actually friends. And then the guy had a crazy idea. Hey, Michael, instead of you being the main focal point of the offense every single time, we're going to do this thing called the triangle, and you're going to give up the ball. And it was not easy. I mean, Michael really chafed under that whole system, and he's thinking to myself, why am I dumping the ball into guys like Bill Cartwright in the post? And I don't trust this guy named Pippen. But you know what? He bought in. And I still remember going back even a little bit further. Magic Johnson was the ultimate superstar. But if you've read any books or heard any interviews or seen documentaries, they will tell you that Earvin Magic Johnson, for as big a star as he was incredibly compliant to Pat Riley. Maybe he had to be after a second season when Paul Westphal kind of got blown out, and a lot of people blame Magic.
Paul Westhead.
Paul Westhead, you're right. And so Magic may have felt pressure that, hey, I got to ride this guy. This guy's going to have to be the general. I'm going to have to be the top soldier. But let's go back to priorities. LeBron wanted to have his quote-unquote posse fly with him and be a part of the team. And that very same guy by the name of Pat Riley said, no. We're not doing that. Because remember, Pat Riley had one rule for the Lakers that even Magic couldn't break. It was only broken one time. Pat Riley used to have a rule. I don't care who you are. You're not riding on that team bus unless you're a part of this team. There was no way Pat Riley was going to have other people fly on the team plane.
So I want to stay with this LeBron topic before I ask you a question about the Heat and Nikola Jokic and whether they can pull this off. But Chris Haynes reported today that Kyrie Irving would like for the Dallas Mavericks to pursue LeBron James. LeBron, Kyrie, Luka Doncic, another big three. You like this idea? Do you think Mark Cuban and the Dallas Mavericks, do you think it's a possibility?
As someone who's dying to be a Laker fan again, yes, let LeBron do Dallas. I am all for it. In fact, I will volunteer an afternoon. I will rent a U-Haul. I'll help him pack his stuff and get out of here. But let me ask you this, though, Jason. If you are any organization, and again, we have different feelings or different attitudes about Kyrie Irving as it relates to different subjects. There's on-the-court stuff where he's been very admirable, and as a basketball player, he's been completely unreliable. If you are Mark Cuban or any other owner or brain trust of an NBA team, is Kyrie Irving on your short list of guys that you consult with to build a franchise? Ask yourself that, Jason. Really?
If he can help you, if he can help deliver LeBron to your franchise, yeah, he's on my list.
Yes,
I consult with it. If Kyrie wouldn't say this if he didn't think it was a possibility, in my opinion. I don't think Kyrie just says things to drive discussions. He and LeBron, look, LeBron probably wants another title. And if the Dallas Mavericks are willing to agree to draft Bronny James in a year from now, then perhaps they would pursue LeBron James, and that would be an interesting trifecta, no?
It would be. Now, look, there's two things that could happen, and there's equal probability. That trifecta, that lethal weapon three of Dallas that you just named, yeah, maybe they can win 60, 65 games and make a deep playoff run, maybe even win a title. Or consider this, again, I'm just going by track record, because your track record of the past can tell me what happens in the future. One day in, let's say January or February, Kyrie Irving could just wake up and said, not feeling this basketball thing. I'm a deep thinker. I don't feel like playing. I need a break. Both are highly probable, Jason. And then LeBron's going to be like, oh, good grief, really? Really? And then they're going to have those issues. Look, Kyrie Irving should have never found a way to break apart from LeBron. After that 2016 3-1 comeback against Golden State, Kyrie needed to have the self-awareness to say, you know what? This guy can make me into a consistent world champion. But he didn't. I mean, look, I know we really appreciate some of the stances that Irving has taken outside the court. But as a basketball player, he is completely unreliable. That's a fact.
It is. I can't dispute that fact. I'm never giving up on Kyrie Irving. I don't want LeBron to go to Dallas. I think that would be cheap and cheesy, and it would further diminish my feelings about LeBron James if he did that. Back to the NBA Finals, and look, I apologize. I watched the NBA Finals thinking about LeBron James. I'm just being transparent, what it means to his legacy, just being honest. But what do you think happens here? It's 1-1. They've stolen one on the road. You think Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets are in real trouble?
If they can't find a way to get Jamal Murray to game one form, because they did something interesting. It seems to me Spoelstra, who is proving that he is an elite coach with or without LeBron, that look, let Jokic get his 30, let him get his triple-double, but make sure that everyone else, all the complementary players, are not going to have that same success. And look, the difference in game one and game two, a lot of it had to do with Murray's production or lack thereof. Also, if I'm Coach Malone, right now I am in that film room and I am lambasting my team. That Nuggets defense in the half court in terms of their rotations and their switches was incredibly poor. Look, I'm not a basketball savant, but Koreatown Hubie Brown could even see that was poor defense that was played. I mean, they gave up a lot of open looks. And another thing that drove me nuts, I've never seen a game where so many three-point shooters were fouled. Hey, guys, just get your hand up and close out. The lack of defensive fundamentals from the Nuggets last night, I thought was alarming. Now, I'm allowed to change my mind here. I thought at the beginning of the series, it would be a 5 or 6 game series because I assumed Denver would hold home court for at least the first 2 games. Now things change, and now I'm going to have a revised prediction. I say Nuggets in 7.
Yeah, I think Nuggets in 7 is probably still my prediction as well, but I'm not shocked that the Heat have found a way to make this interesting because they're just so gritty and tough, and Jimmy Butler is gritty and tough. And just I do want to clarify one thing. Jokic had 40. He didn't have a triple-double last night. He only had 4 assists.
Right.
They really bottled up his other players. They let him get his without letting him distribute and get all the other guys involved. It was a brilliant strategy. And again, it goes back to why I was thinking about how great Eric Spoelstra is and how LeBron made a mistake. Steve, I want to, by the way, I want to see your approval score. That's mine. I've got him at an 85. Steve, you only got Spoelstra at an 80.
He won 1 game. When he hoists the Larry O'Brien trophy, I'll go up to a 90. These are very fluid.
He's in the NBA Finals.
You got to win it. It's 1 game. Look, the NBA Finals and all playoff series are a game of adjustments. And I still remember playoff series that literally looked like 7 different teams each time based on the adjustments. And, it's interesting. I happened to see over the weekend something, a documentary on NBA TV about the 2001 Sixers called Everybody But the Chip. And it really holds to what I'm talking about here. Allen Iverson actually said after one playoff game where they had won and then they lost, he said, I just want to say one thing. Larry Brown did the greatest job of coaching. The adjustments he made tonight, like Allen had this revelation, like, oh my God, I should listen to this neurotic guy before he quits this job. And so that's the challenge for Malone now, that what we saw in game 2 cannot happen in game 3.
Steve, I want to get to a topic I think you have some interest in. I know you're upset by this. Spotify has declined to renew Jemele Hill's podcast deal. Unbothered. It's not going to be returning to Spotify. Are you bothered by this?
Is it Spotify or not a fi? Because they weren't bothered to go on with this. I got to tell you about Jemele Hill. I got to tell you about old Jay Hill. Jay Hill would be like if Nathaniel Hackett especially when it comes to her TV, because she was a fairly successful writer. But
No, I'm
yes,
not going to let you into that.
Come on, she was fairly successful. Fairly.
Steve.
What?
Steve.
What?
If you and I got an argument about liquor stores in black neighborhoods or cleaners in black neighborhoods, I would defer to you.
I would be the guy. I would be the guy.
Yeah,
yes,
I would defer to
so.
you. When it comes to sports writing, you should defer to me. Continue.
Okay, and I just want to add this. Hey, put down that orange juice. Okay, anyway, so here's the thing. So as a television personality, it would be like Nathaniel Hackett after last year getting another 3 or 4 NFL head coaching jobs. So that brings to mind, she's like Paul Hackett. Remember Paul Hackett used to ruin all these programs because he was the quarterback coach for Joe Montana? A real difficult job there, right? I get to hide behind Bill Walsh, and I had a guy, number 16 was pretty good, and he ended up getting like the big-time Chiefs job. He ran Pitt, head coach at USC. It is amazing. Jemele Hill should be the new Webster's or Urban Dictionary for failing upward. I mean, you just look at the opportunities that she's been given at ESPN, and they tried to do that really the interesting version of SportsCenter. That failed. That was an absolute flop. And now she's trying to play a game of semantics where she says, I really wasn't fired and there's stuff going on. Look, at the end of the day, when she absolutely dared Spotify to give me or someone else a $100 million deal like Joe Rogan, Spotify said, double dare, you're out of here. So she got what she asked for.
Yeah, she is the female version of Bomani Jones. She keeps failing upwards.
Ooh, Shimani.
She's. I'm just sorry. I followed her sports writing career the whole night. She's never had a real accomplishment. She's always been given opportunities and promotions based on what she might do once they put her in this position. And she wasn't qualified to be a sports columnist. She was an average one in Orlando and then got there's a black woman writing a column in Orlando. Let's give her a job at ESPN. Average columnist at ESPN. Her and Michael Smith had a podcast. What was it? Numbers Never Lie or whatever, or His and Hers, whatever it was. It was moderately successful. And I'm stretching the word successful there. And then they got that 6 p.m. Sports Center, again, based off a theory of what she might do. And she blew that up and blew Michael Smith up in the process. It's rarely talked about how she destroyed his career as well. Mm-hmm. It's rarely talked about. Look, I'm no Jemele Hill fan, and so she's blocked me on Twitter.
No, really?
Me on Twitter.
Really?
Yeah. Last thing before I let you go, on a light topic, just because I got to tell you what my struggle is today.
What?
And it's a real struggle. I don't know if you and I think you can help me out with this because I know you work out, you're in the boxing world.
That's what I
Steve, yesterday I changed up my workout. I did this very simple workout that I saw on Instagram. You take 2 little dumbbells and you bend over and you pick one up and then you lean the other way and pick the other one up and you're just going back and forth. Like it looks so simple on Instagram. I did 8 sets of this, 1-minute sets, took 2-minute breaks in between the sets. Steve, it has absolutely destroyed me. I'm talking about, I get on my Stairmaster and go 30, 45 minutes, big sweat, hard workout. This little simple thing that I did for 25 minutes has me in so much pain. And again, let's say I did this at 1 o'clock, 1:30-ish, maybe 2 o'clock-ish yesterday. I'm hurting right now. I'm falling off a cliff right now, energy-wise. My body is in total chaos right now. I switch up this workout. Can you help me out here? What am I experiencing? This is crazy. I thought this was nothing. My rear end hurts. My hamstrings hurt. My lower back is starting to hurt. My upper back is hurt. I feel like I was in a car wreck.
And that is good. It's about time you took the training wheels off and got off the elliptical. This is great. And I actually do workouts like that. Now that I'm older, I don't really lift heavy free weights anymore. I actually do the resistance band. And the workout that brings me the most amount of sweat is actually when you do 3-minute intervals. So basically, let's say 100 pounds at any exercise is your max. You do about 40% or maybe 30% of whatever you can lift heaviest, and you do that same exercise for 3 minutes. And it's really easy for about the first 30 seconds. Then around a minute, you feel as though that you are going to die. And you only do a few sets. So those workouts will only take about 27 to 30 minutes. You finally are working out in a way that Ball State can be proud of you. Because my God, I mean, it's about time you got out of LA Fitness. So body weight motion is good. The resistance bands are good. You go with the relatively low weights and go with the longer interval sets. And this is what, I don't want to go Korean Jack LaLanne here. Any workout over 45 minutes is really a waste, Jason. You should literally be taking 1 minute off in between sets and have a high level of intensity. And within 30 minutes, you should be sweating like you are in a sauna, and then you're done. And another tip from the old Kimster, okay? Try to work out early in the morning on an empty stomach with just water. You'll be looking like Denzel in a month or two. Don't worry, I got you. I'm going to pump you up. This is what we do here. I am glad you've taken it to the next level there, Whitlock.
People all the time ask me like, hey, Whitlock, snap out of it. Look how you're falling asleep on the show. Today is the first time.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I'm so completely drained and I'm in so much pain. All I can think about the last half hour of this show is like, I got to get back in bed. I got to get back in bed.
But Jason, did you work out today, though? Jay, did you work? It's important
Not yet.
when you're. No, you have to, though. See, now that you got the soreness, you got the lactic acid, now you have to move your body again. Now, it's actually important to take days off. Victor Conte had taught me, yes, that Victor Conte. The rest and recovery is as important as the workout. Now, another thing that I've employed the last several years, because it's actually very soothing for the body and it's very restorative, yoga. Yeah, go to a yoga class, buy yourself a mat, learn how to do a routine. You could do it on YouTube, put in a little Anita Baker. She gives you the best she got. It's great. I do that twice a week. Straightens out your spine. Jason, you are moving. I like what is going on here. It's about time you got out of the beginner stage. Good grief. Good grief.
I'm going.
Proud of you, though.
TJ Mode, I was talking to him about it yesterday. He's talked me into like, I'm going to go buy bags of ice and I'm going to take an ice bath.
That's a good one, too. 3 minutes is all you need. 3 minutes, but the water has to be about 50. Yeah, water has to be about 56 degrees. You go 3 to 5 minutes. Make sure you submerge yourself. It's going to feel like torture. It's going to be like knives going all through your body, but it's worth it. You're going to become from the big sexy to just the extra large sexy. It's good. It's all part of the process. You're good. You're good.
All right, guys, I'm out of here. We're done. Play tomorrow. Hopefully, if I can get out of bed, we'll see you tomorrow.
Freedom, looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came in like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all these moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on a corner, never been alone. I'm breaking my back for freedom. Blessed, we are living, get back. We are receiving, all deceiving. We all wanna be free. We want freedom. I wanna be. I just